This is Alexandra, and she has kindly agreed to share her experience of learning to drive. She suffers with anxiety, and she knew that learning to drive would not be easy from the start. If you're anxious about driving, I understand that you may feel like it's just you. You're the only one who feels this way, and it's easy for everybody else. But that's far from the case. Although being anxious about driving isn't the norm, it is very common, and I'm hoping that hearing from someone with similar feelings may help. I've prepared a list of questions for Alexandra so you get an idea of what it was like for her to learn to drive. The first question is, how long did it take you to learn to drive? What do you remember?
I think it was approximately 4 years, I think, and it was over 200 hours, and that's about as
Over
far
200 hours and approximately 4 years. Well,
I think so.
I've got this written down.
Have you actually got it written down?
Yes.
Okay.
Hours?
Yeah.
309.
Ooh, okay.
309 hours, and you started in December 16
Yeah.
and you finished in October 20.
Yeah.
Although you did have 6 months out.
Yeah, for COVID and everything.
Yeah. So you would have had it sooner than that. So really that's 3.5 years
And that was three
of
tests
learning
in the
time.
end.
3 tests, yes.
3 tests.
You did 2 tests before the pandemic.
Yes, and then
You had
one.
your 3rd test lined up, but then that was cancelled, wasn't it? And then
I had to cancel it because I had to isolate, didn't I?
That was right.
Because of my nana.
And then you got one in October.
Got one in October.
Started up
in between the
lessons.
2 lockdowns.
Yes, and you managed to do it.
Squeezed it in.
So, next question. How do you feel about how long it took?
I feel like it was the time it needed to take me, especially since I think it was the first 2 lessons I wouldn't even get in the driver's seat because she got me to do clutch control instead.
Mm-hmm.
But I was always in it for the long run. I knew it was going to take me longer than someone who has more confidence and doesn't have an anxiety disorder. But I'm happy that it took the time that it took. Like, if it needed to take longer, I would have carried on. I was very determined.
Okay. Next question. What are the 2 biggest challenges of learning for you? What were the 2 biggest things for you?
Confidence was a big one, like in myself and in controlling what I thought of for a long time as the big death machine.
Okay.
It's not necessarily like 2 separate things. It's mostly down to my confidence about, relying on my own decisions, being there and be like, okay, I don't need to wait for a big gap. If I know I've got time and I've got the confidence to get myself going, then I was happy. But my confidence has skyrocketed since I passed as well.
Yes.
Like the first couple of weeks.
That's great.
I was, still like, oh, I'm a new learner. I'm still making little mistakes, but now
So your biggest challenges, confidence?
confidence, and forward parking was a bad one for me. Which now I very rarely backwards park. I almost always forward park in this
You
car.
did. You said, I don't understand. I remember you saying, I don't understand why anyone would want to forward park a car. It's so stupid.
Yeah, but in your car it's a lot easier to reverse park, but in this one
Is it?
I find it a lot easier to forward park because
Okay.
I've got such a little nose, and I don't know, I just
Yeah,
find
it
it a
has
lot
got-
easier to forward
Your
park
car
in this
does
car.
have quite a flat nose,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
it's a little
It's
car.
a bit like a pug.
Yeah. It's a pug of a car, yeah.
Okay, so how did you overcome these challenges then?
For me, I gain more confidence when I do something more often.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to push my own limits instead of being forced to push my limits. So as long as I've got the choice to say, I want to push the boat out and try this thing that scares me, I found was better for me.
So you're basically saying giving you time to do things at your own time.
Yeah.
As and when you feel comfortable,
Yeah.
instead of being pushed.
Which is why I was never bothered that it took me as long as it did, because it was on my terms, which meant my anxiety, though, some days I had bad days. I would be really shaky. I would have a lot of trouble with even the simplest of things just because my anxiety was
I remember.
sky high. But on days where I had a little more confidence in myself, I'd be like, hey, I want to challenge myself. I want to do this.
Yeah.
As I know I've struggled with it before. So for me, being able to challenge myself at my own pace really helped me.
Okay, and that kind of answers one of my questions I was going to
It
ask.
does a little bit later. Oops.
Later. Another question I was going to ask was, how can I can't find it on my list now, it's somewhere down there. How can a driving instructor help you? But you're kind of just saying that there. I'll miss that question out now. You're saying give yourself time to do things at your own pace.
But that doesn't work for everyone.
No.
It doesn't. Some people with anxiety need that push.
Yeah.
They need you to say, you need to go do this. But you don't know that until you get that person in front of you.
So you've got to listen to the person you're
100%.
trying to help.
Especially with someone with anxiety.
Yeah.
You need to listen to where their limits are. You've got to almost see the signs of where they're at their limit. With me, you knew when I was getting to the point where I shouldn't be pushing myself anymore, and you'd be like, hey, let's pull ourselves back, do something a bit simpler, something you know you can do, get yourself that little bit more confident again, and then we'll try it again.
Yeah, that does make sense. If you're out of your depth, go somewhere a bit more shallow.
Yes.
What was the reaction to your friends and family when you were learning to drive, and when it was taking you so long, when they were asking, have you got your driving test? Haven't you passed yet?
I did have some people in my life that said that because it was taking me so long, I shouldn't keep trying. Because if you're that nervous about driving, then you're going to be a dangerous driver. You shouldn't be on the roads if you're that scared of doing something as simple as, going on a country road. But it's not the same for everyone. Not everyone can get in a car, be ready to go, can do, one of those week intensive courses and be passed. Some of us need that time to build the confidence within ourselves so we can be confident outwardly.
Okay.
Because it's all from the inside. As some people may say, it's all in your head. And in a way it is, but you can't dismiss it as just in your head, because you need to be comfortable in your head to then be able to do things outside of your head, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense. But how do you deal with them?
With a smile.
With a smile?
With a smile, be like, okay, that's fine by you. If you only took a week to do it.
Would you argue with them?
Or? No, I would say, I wouldn't necessarily, I'm not an argumentative person.
Okay.
So some people would probably be like.
So it didn't cause arguments though, then? Did it hurt you?
Certain people saying that, I shouldn't, people close to me saying, oh, you shouldn't be learning.
Did it make you doubt yourself?
A little bit, sometimes, but I was very much determined, and I wanted to do this. I felt that this was something I really wanted and not necessarily needed to do, but to be honest, these days you want to get anywhere, you need some sort of transport, and the pure independence you get from being able to drive yourself somewhere instead of asking someone else to do it for you, huge confidence boost.
Because that leads me to my next question really. It's like, where did you get the motivation from to keep going for so long? And you've kind of answered that there. You really wanted to
I wanted
drive.
to prove people wrong.
Is that part of it
It's
as
part
well?
of it. I wanted to prove the people that are doubting.
It wasn't just only you wanted to get driving.
Obviously, I want to.
And
I have a degree.
Conservation,
I have a
wasn't it?
degree in conservation.
Yeah, so you need a car for that.
I want to be able to go, to far-flung ends of the country to help with conservation. But it was also to kind of prove people wrong. Because I am that kind of person who would be like, oh, you don't think I can do it? Well, I'm going to try even harder now.
That's good motivation sometimes. I do understand that. If someone says you can't do something, sometimes you do feel like, okay.
I had someone who said, after I'd
that.
failed the 2 tests, oh, if you don't pass the 3rd, you should give up. You shouldn't be driving.
I do hear that quite a lot, actually. Not just,
no.
towards you, but in general. If you're not, I think Jeremy Clarkson says that, doesn't he? He says, if you don't pass in 3, then, then you shouldn't be on the road.
I have opinions on that man that I don't want to go into right now.
He's a good motoring journalist, though. He does know his cars. I'll tell him. I'll say that. He knows an awful lot about cars. Right, another question. Why have you agreed to take part in this interview-style video? Because there's no benefit to you here, is there? Why have you agreed to do this?
I think I would have liked to have seen someone do this. To be like, hey, I have an anxiety disorder. I was able to do it. And you may not be able to do it the same way as me, but you can do it. It may take you longer than someone else. You may have people doubting you every step of the way, but you can do it. And if I can do it, many others can do it. And I understand that some people have got very severe anxiety and they feel like they should just completely give up. I've had days where you've seen me crying my eyes out saying, why am I doing this? I should just give up. This is so hard. This is so scary. But I managed to do it. It took me 4 years, but I managed to do it. And feels so much better within myself.
That's part of the reason why I reached out to you and asked
Yeah.
if you would do the video, because I know some of my viewers do feel anxious about learning to drive, and I thought, well, why not hear
And
from
anxiety
someone
disorders
else?
are pretty common.
Yeah. They seem to be more common, or we just understand them more.
I think we just understand them more. I don't think they were any less common before. I just think we now actually see it. We're like, hey, that person's got an anxiety disorder. We need to treat them, not necessarily differently, but in a way, yes, differently. But not in the way that is patronising, is what I'm trying to say.
To help.
Yes.
So, would an automatic have made it easier for you?
I had no problem with technical skill.
Yeah.
I can, even now.
But giving you less things to do, would that help with your confidence?
Personally, no. Because it wasn't the how do I do gears, how do I turn? It's clutch before what? It was the actual driving itself.
It's
the
the
actually being
speed.
on the road, the speed as well.
I remember that. It took you a long time. That's why you failed your first two tests too slow.
Yeah, I was too
And in
slow on
there
country roads.
yeah, that was where you struggled the most for speed.
Remember the first time I went 30 round a corner and I was like, it's like light speed, and
Yeah,
now I'm sitting at 30 and goes, this is so slow.
At first, to be fair, I thought you were going to be quite easy because you did learn quite quickly. You seem nervous, most people are at first, but the difference between you and most of my customers is that nerves didn't seem to go away. They seemed to stay there, and they did go away, but they took a very long time. But the actual driving of a car, you were actually...
My technical skill is
Good.
perfectly fine.
Yeah.
My auntie used to take me round fields in her little Fiesta just to go get water in first gear from across the field.
Did that help you, do you think?
Yes and no.
Yeah?
But I did have, at one point, one of my other aunts deliberately scare me in a car, which didn't help.
How do they scare you?
We were next to a very deep ditch with a long, big hill on the other side.
Yeah.
We weren't going fast, but she goes, oh no, I've lost control. You're going to have to steer for me. So I literally had to reach
What, you mean
over.
like joking?
No, she wanted me to reach over to her side of the car and steer it from the passenger seat.
So she wasn't joking?
No, she wasn't joking. She wanted me to do that.
So she wasn't joking about wanting you to steer, but
No.
I mean, was she joking about the fact she had lost control?
Yes, 100%.
She hadn't actually
Yeah,
lost
she was being
control.
sarcastic, like, oh, I've lost... It's like when she goes over the bumps in the roads for deer. I forget what they're called. Rumble strips.
Rumble strips, yeah?
Oh no, my wheel's fallen off. She's that kind of person.
I see.
Yeah.
But on that occasion, you really didn't want to take the wheel.
No.
And you felt like you had to.
Yes.
I see.
And I was in the passenger seat, so I've got
And
like no control.
That made you feel nervous then.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
But
You haven't used a steering wheel before, and although for someone who drives and knows how to steer, it's fairly obvious, but to a new driver, how much to turn the wheel for how much the car's going to move, it takes some calibration, it takes some getting used to, doesn't it? Especially from the wrong side of the car, it's a lot harder.
100%.
I can say that as a driving instructor, I'm quite used to it now, but using the wheel from this side of the car is a bit hard at first. So, are you a safe driver now?
I'd like to think I am.
So-
I make the same mistakes anyone else may make on, say, a confusing or unfamiliar junction, but I like to. I don't muck about on my phone while I'm driving. I saw someone in traffic literally checking their makeup while at the lights, and then the lights turned green and they didn't move, and I was sitting there going. But personally, I don't do anything that would distract me. I like to be as safe as I can.
You're in control, you're up to speed, you're with the flow of traffic.
No. I'm comfortable at
You've
40
been in many
these days on
accidents in your first year of driving?
None at all.
How many have you caused?
Richard! Rude!
So you're driving down the road and just utter
No, I have literally tapped.
behind you.
I've tapped the odd wall very, very slowly, like because I'm easing myself back, and I've felt my bumper sort of flex.
Well, in France, in Paris, they say bumpers are for bumping, don't they? Well, we are in England.
Oh, there was the one time I accidentally knocked into someone else's bumper very, very gently again, and it made her child jump, who sat in the car. She tried to convince me that I'd hit her car so hard that he'd been thrown back in his seat. Yeah, I got my little evidence for that one. Just like, there's no marks on our bumpers. There's, this is my license plate. There's her license. But nothing ever came of it. I think she realised the kid had just gone,
So you've
back
had
in
a
his
few little parking dings, but
Yeah.
no sort of
Pretty
speed.
much 99.9% of the scratches on this car are the previous 2 to 3 owners. I've got maybe one scratch on the back where I accidentally ran my key across it while I was opening the boot.
Oh, right, so that's not even driving related.
No.
It's clumsiness.
It's clumsiness, yeah.
So one of the questions was, are you pleased you've done it? But I think you've
100%.
clearly made that
100%.
clear. And anything you would like to say to anyone else who may be in your shoes or in similar shoes to you?
It is hard. Don't ever think that it's not hard. It is going to be potentially one of the hardest things you ever do, especially within yourself. You may have that little voice at the back of your head saying, you're an idiot, why are you doing this? Stop doing this. This is just... It's a self-preservation thing, 100%. But if you really want to do it, don't listen to other people. If they're telling you have to do it, it's if you want to do it. Because you don't need to be able to drive. It is not a life necessity. You're not going to die if you never learn to drive. I know people who are in their 40s, 50s, who just never wanted to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine.
My mum doesn't drive. She's never had any
My
interest
other
in
half
driving.
didn't learn to drive until he was 32, 33.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I teach people in their 30s and I've taught people in their 50s. Yeah, 50s. I was going to say the oldest customer I've had was in their 80s, but she was a refresher.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because she didn't do much of the driving, and an hour and a half could no longer drive, so she had to do the driving.
What I'm trying to say is, if you want to do it,
Mm-hmm.
don't let other people tell you you shouldn't just because of anxiety disorder. Anxiety disorders are not an end of your life sort of thing. You can help yourself cope with them. You're never going to be cured of it, but you can help yourself cope and help yourself get that confidence to be like, hey, driving isn't this horrendously scary, dangerous thing. It actually has given me loads of independence. And it is nice to be able to just be like, hey, I can go out for a drive whenever I like, or I need to get somewhere, and I don't have to rely on someone else to get me there, which was a big thing for me. I didn't like relying on people because I felt guilty because it was their petrol, their time.
Yeah.
At least if now I drive it, it's
Now
my
you're
petrol, my
independent.
time. And the independence is a big thing for me. 100%.
Well, I'm certainly glad you achieved it. I was amazed at how determined you are, how you just kept going. I would have thought many people give up, but that was one of your biggest qualities, just that ability just to keep going for it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Well, I hope this video helps if you're learning to drive, particularly if you have anxiety. If you think it does, please give it a thumbs up and check out Collingwood and Confused in the description if you want insurance. Collingwood are great if you want to insure yourself on somebody else's car because you can do so without affecting their policy. And at the moment, via the link, there's up to 35% off and a £20 Amazon gift card. Also, check out confused.com to compare many insurers. You fill out one quote form and get loads of prices back from different insurers, and you can change the car on that quote as many times as you like to see how much it costs to insure different cars. Using the links doesn't cost you anything, but it does support the channel, so thank you very much. Subscribe to get my future videos, and until the next one, cheerio.